Hello and welcome, everybody. Good
Good evening, and welcome to All Things Loot.
And this is Atomic. Oh my God. This is Brian, who's tired.
Atomic Brian.
Who's tired and traveling and completely brain dead out in Minneapolis. But
If Brian sounds a little different than usual, he's actually on site right now at Minneapolis for an incredibly important video game related thing.
Yeah, it's called watching YouTube videos in my hotel room. But it's woo! But yeah, so I'm on a completely different mic.
That's what I did all this weekend.
I'm on a completely different mic, so that might be why I'm on a very different pitch right now than usual. So if you wondered what happened to me, that's all it is. But anyway,
Meanwhile, back at home base.
This is the Addicted to Loot podcast, episode 6. Every time I saw ATL, I kept on thinking Atomic podcast. No,
it's the Atomic Tom and Let's Talk About Video Games podcast,
episode 6.
This is going to be I know I said in all the promotional material for the last week that last week was a doozy because it was basically our No Man's Sky extravaganza.
Oh, but, just a little bit.
The notes for this week's episode run into 4 pages. Oh my God.
I know, it's just, we thought at first this is going to be, maybe, we don't know how many pages it's going to be. We don't know what's going to happen with this. Maybe Gamescom's not going to give us all that much to talk about. Oh my God, were we wrong.
Oh, a laugh. Oh, what a laugh.
Like we said, in the last podcast, we had like a page and a half of games. Now we have 3 pages worth of games, and it's just, This is going to be the, at minimum, episode 1 Gamescom, if not all of Gamescom, and oh boy, that's just too much to even, take in right now.
I did some quick figuring. We've got over 25 games that we have either new information about. Now, here's the thing. Almost all of these are existing games, but these are like new trailers or finally information about things. There's a very few that are actually announcements here, but it's mostly, again, trailers and release dates, things like that.
But still more than enough to talk about, so.
More than enough to talk about. But that's going to have to wait because breaking news as of this morning.
Yeah, super breaking.
Literally like bleeding edge, like this just appeared on my desk, oh my God, kind of news. This is immensely relevant to what we've been talking about for pretty much all of our episodes so far.
Quite a bit of them.
PlayStation, using their streaming service that they have for bringing PS3 games to the PS4, are now doing that to the PC.
What?
This is insane.
They're going to be bringing any type of PlayStation game, 3, 4, what have you, and then they're actually going to, port it onto PC, which is awesome. I mean, that is incredible.
Well, I was literally talking last week about how saying, if I wanted to play Uncharted, I have to buy a PlayStation.
Not anymore.
No, suck it.
Yeah,
bite me, Alec.
I think the ones they highlighted specifically were Uncharted, not Left 4 Dead, The Last of Us,
God of War, Ratchet and Clank.
There's all sorts of stuff. So that is no, they didn't really release any details or anything else, but it's really just an announcement, kind of going into the void, and we'll just go from there. If we ever hear anything back, we can add more to it. But we're just
I don't know anything about the integrity of their streaming service because in the past, streaming games has been either dodgy or just hasn't caught on. Like OnLive died, so. I don't know. This could be like, gee, you don't want to play a multiplayer game. Like, I can't imagine Destiny over a streaming service would work. But a single-player thing, that
would be fine.
Uncharted?
Or maybe even, local co-op wouldn't be too bad.
Right. How does it work? Is it just sending any and all signals to a server in, France and that are coming back or what?
I don't know. I don't know if it does local saves or if it does server saves, because I don't know if it's going to be like Steam basically, where it just it hosts the games on a central portion.
Steam, but with an R, like stream.
Wow, I'm too tired to have caught that, but it's But yeah, like I don't know if it's just going to be centrally stored. I am not familiar with the current streaming system because I know like that they took PS3 games, they ported them, and then they basically shoved them onto the PS4. So there has to be some, I would say, almost server-based or central location housing for this because I know it's not like. It'd be different if they just completely released a whole brand new game that you downloaded completely. I don't think it's that. So.
That would be too much to expect.
Exactly.
That would be super unprecedented.
So, I guess we'll wait and see, but it's something that we're very interested in.
I'm also intrigued at the fact they also announced that their DualShock 4 controller will be now officially, I guess, PC compliant, or a version of it that's PC compliant. And that's really weird because up till about 3 or 4 years ago, I used to say that the PlayStation controller was my favorite controller, but I started using newer Xbox controllers more, and I think what it comes down to are the trigger buttons. Yeah,
Xbox always had a one-up on PlayStation in terms of just trigger placement. Really, I mean, it all depends. I mean, we've had numerous conversations back in high school about whether or not which one we like more. But
right.
I mean, also the deciding factor for me was basically just that the Xbox controller could work on a PC. The PlayStation one couldn't, so I used it far more.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, that can decide something right there. What I actually use, I had a wireless Xbox controller for a while, and the receiver died or something, and I've always had a Logitech, that one what you see everyone have everywhere that's using a controller on a PC.
Yep.
And I've just used that since. It's wired. I like it. It's a little stiff. It doesn't have, pressure sensitivity, or much by way of pressure sensitivity on. I don't know. Let me look at it now that I think about it. Maybe it does. Yeah, it does. It's just they're really kind of dodgy.
Yep.
But I do prefer the Xbox's trigger buttons as far as that's concerned.
The way they're positioned, it's more, I'd say it's far more natural of a trigger pull or of a finger motion than the PlayStation ones. Because like the way I always looked at it was I had always preferred the PlayStation controllers for something like sporting games and things like that. I feel like the orientation was far better. Same with like racing games.
Well, definitely racing games, yeah.
But for like RPGs or shooters or anything else, I always liked the Xbox controller more purely
Part
because
of it is the analog stick, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I always preferred the Xbox controller, but it really depended on the game because back when I had an Xbox and a PlayStation all at the same like kind of, I'd say, rev level, was I would always, if there was multiple games released, or if there was a game released for both systems, depending on what the game was, depending on which system I bought it for, purely because I wanted to have the right controller scheme or the right controller feel for that game.
Well, honestly, I mean, if I had a console, I would be making conscious decisions of, gee, this is a first-person shooter, I'd rather have mouse and keyboard. Gee, this is a, third-person adventure game, I'd rather have the controller version. I want to say really quick that I was talking last week about how I was playing No Man's Sky with a mouse and keyboard. I have switched to using a controller, and I do like it.
Really?
So that's a rare example. Now, I avoid combat at all costs in that game. I'll be talking about it a little bit more a little bit later. Spoiler alert, my opinion hasn't changed. I still fucking love it.
Real big spoil.
I have currently 1,001 screenshots on Steam with 18 hours of play. So
I'm surprised it's that low.
I know. But anyway, going back to the controller thing, it's a rare game where it's a first-person game that I do enjoy using a controller for. But yeah, I'm going to I don't feel like I've used the DualShock 4 much. I've played it with Alex's system a couple of times, and again, it feels a little flimsy,
It depends. I mean, I do like the PS4 controllers better than I like to think maybe like the PS3 controllers.
Maybe that's the thing. My comparison point is the PS3 controller more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I like the PS4 ones, or at least the latest revs of them anyway. But the sad part for me is I already played a good amount of the games that they advertised to port over on the PS4. So I was like, oh great, it's coming to PC. I already played that game. Okay, well
color me a scrub, because I would love to be able to finally play Journey,
Oh yeah, well one of the things that I would, games like the remastered Last of Us on a PC,
right,
on like ultra settings, or if it would be incredible. Like,
Mamma mia! Oh, that's what we like.
I mean, it would. On the PS4, they look insane. So I can only imagine what the quality would look like once it got put onto a PC. But I don't know. So very exciting news. More to come on that whenever they decide to release.
And that's going to be their
PlayStation
Now service is what it's called.
I feel like at some point in time, everyone's going to have a PC streaming hosting software, whether it's Steam, almost every single one now. BioWare has one, Ubisoft has one, PlayStation's going to get one, Microsoft has one.
Actually, I'm surprised it's PlayStation doing this and not Microsoft, because Microsoft has every ability to say, hey, Windows, that's one of our things.
You would, Yeah, you would think maybe this will force them into doing it, but
this could be a great example of like, damn it, Jim, we were working on this, we were going to launch it next month at friggin' Sony.
God damn PlayStation.
Hurry it along, drop that hollow crap, do this.
Well, in other exciting news, there has been, I would say, probably a decent amount of, uproar about another Pokemon-like game that's not Pokemon Go.
No, Pokemon No, this is something else.
Which, on side note, Pokemon Go is drastically plummeting. No change from the last time we covered it and said that
I have to say, I laughed. Somebody on Twitter retweeted, somebody said, hey guys, remember Pokemon Go? I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible how that changed. But anyway, Pokemon Uranium is actually an independent Pokemon game developed by, I would say, a fan. So if you want a good way of labeling this might be Pokemon fan fiction. It's it literally is every game mechanic, even the visuals, all 100% Pokemon Game Boy era-esque visuals. I mean, it looks just like it. However, all the Pokemon are different, the characters are different, so it's like a completely different game, but it's an independent fan's take on it. The day it was released, it got huge press, I would say, and then all of a sudden, like a few days later, it got taken down for undisclosed reasons, unless you saw something.
Caveat, it was not a licensed, it was completely a fan thing, and it was released for free.
Yeah, that was the other big thing. It was a completely free game, so it looked really good. I mean, it got a lot of really good reviews. I believe it is still currently available somewhere out on the web, right? Maybe.
Ahoy there, matey! Up there on the high seas, I catch a glimpse, port side bow. So it's out there. It's it's still acquirable through various sources. And they actually have officially made a statement saying, "Yeah, we're going to continue to support this and things like that." So it's obtainable through sources.
So if you're looking for a good Game Boy-esque throwback, but you want to do it on PC, Pokemon Uranium, go check it out.
I feel bummed that the first I heard about it was it getting shut down, because I was like, I would have been interested in this.
Well, it was... Go on.
I was just going to say, I may still be interested in it. We'll see.
Well, I would be too, but I mean, a long time ago, I downloaded a Pokemon Blue emulator just because I missed the original Game Boy stuff. But it's the same. Like I saw an announcement that said it was released. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But then an hour later, I saw that it was taken down. So I think I was a little bit behind the uptake on the original announcement. But it's. But like I said, looks good. So if you have any more, if you want to maybe revamp your Pokemon fandom. That's not Pokemon Go, since we're all crying in self-pity with that. But Pokemon Uranium, much better.
I mean, it's literally what we were saying when we were talking about Pokemon Go back in episode 1, where we were saying, boy, I would just really like to be playing Pokemon. I want to be doing the animal fighting and the kind of storyline, quote unquote, progression that comes with that.
Just, not with the virtual stuff, not with the geo-tracking. It's just a Pokemon game. So, yeah, and I think in a lot of ways that's far better.
Alrighty.
Oh, boy.
We're going to open this door.
Let's roll our sleeves.
Get your cups of coffee, or 2 or 7.
Yeah, get your chips, get your snacks, get your
drinks. Doritos and your Mountain Dew.
Oh my God! Get your D12. This is it.
I've actually, it's really weird. This is the first year that I've truly paid attention to Gamescom, because it's there's always really 2 release seasons, right? There's spring and fall, and spring this year was kind of butts.
It was
like XCOM 2 and Overwatch, but I can't really think of anything this spring. I guess The Division was this spring, or was that late winter?
I think that was more late winter.
Yeah. So there wasn't really like the E3 like, and guess what? Tomorrow, comes out. You know,
E3 was just a lot of like, just giving updates on games we already knew about. So
games and tech.
Maybe everyone just thought, you know what we should do? Let's wait for this till the spring, and no one will have anything.
Oh my god.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the deep end. This is a list that is completely not put together in any type of order. So prepare for the awesome.
Well, let's start right off with a game that we've talked about a lot that we're both really big fans of, and that's Overwatch.
Oh, can't speak highly enough of Overwatch.
We are both, I don't know if we've adequately really said this actually on this podcast. We have on like streams and YouTube videos, but we're both really big fans of Overwatch.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're not keeping up with playing time, but we both like Overwatch a lot. There was a good portion of a few weeks where we're both really big into Overwatch.
I would say the better part of a month.
Or maybe, if not more. Yeah.
I do love it in the fact that it is very much a pick up and play game. It is very much something that you can say, I got 10 minutes, or if you work like a 9 to 5 and you get lunch breaks, I got a lunch break.
Yep. But yeah, I would say it's kind of like a team-based shooter that they're trying to pick up like on TF2 and things like that. But it's far better balanced. I think that's really nice. The characters are more balanced. It's a little bit more skill-oriented. Like, some of my minor comments with it would be like, there's no, like, I think we've had this conversation before. Like with TF2, a lot of the draw is the fact that you can get a gun that like shoots sharks with laser beams, and no one cares if the game's broken because it's TF2. No one really gives a damn. But for Overwatch, these characters are set in stone with minor buffs and mitigations here and there. So I mean, it's definitely. I mean, Blizzard's doing a good job with trying to keep it as consistent, as fair as possible.
I was actually stunned when they announced their first new character, because I remember saying to you, I swore to you, I was like, there is no way they're going to add characters. This is so tightly balanced. And they were like, guess what?
Here's a character, and there might be a few more on the way. So maybe that's the way they give the game the longevity, is just by constantly giving it more characters.
It's also like completely primed for fan art, fan fiction. It is like
it's already started.
Yeah, they are at this point now catering to the fan fiction, which it's great. It's an absolute joy to be part of that club. For lack of a better
definitely
word.
The big Overwatch club. But the Gamescom announcements, we got a few big things. The major one being we got a new map, which was
it looks great.
What the heck is it called? What word?
Eichenwald?
It's basically, I would say, a good representation. It's, for those who know Overwatch, it looks like Reinhardt's Castle. For those who do not know Overwatch, it looks like, you know what? Now that I'm looking at this, it almost looks like the castle from Shrek, kind of. But
I was gonna say that. That's so funny.
But yeah, it's a big
part of it because Overwatch's aesthetic is basically Shrek.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it is a big medieval castle with a village in front of it. It's kind of they said it's the very first reverse cart. Yeah, it's the very first map that does a cart push on the very first part and then a capture point on the later parts.
Huh.
I only got that from an article, so don't flag me for it. But
sure.
It's the very first part is the attackers are escorting a battering ram to the gate, which I think is super cool, and then they have to sit there while the gate bashes it down, which I'm assuming is a capture point, and then from there on out, it's just capture points as you get deeper into the castle.
It actually reminds me a lot of old kind of like Quake maps and things like that, in that aesthetic of like sci-fi meets fantasy, or sci-fi meets medieval Renaissance-ish.
Yeah, that probably is a good point. I mean, everyone, from at least the videos and reviews I've read thus far, they say they like it. They say it's a really gorgeous map, and I think
it's on the test server right now.
Yeah, that's the resounding thing, is that it's a super freaking pretty map. Everyone loves it, but they say it's uber on the side of the defenders. They said like 9 times out of 10, if not more, the defenders are going to win just because the way it's designed.
Yeah.
It was designed to be a far more of a tight corridor kind of map, because I guess if you
alleyways.
if you think of a castle, I mean, what else are you going to have? So they said There's so many more choke points. They said there's actually the final choke point is even worse than the very final push at King's Road. If you remember that one, like where you had like that one little right turn.
Talk about biased.
Yeah, I mean that's what they said. They said that it's even worse than that. So if you just wanted a kill point, it's just like everyone. Okay, we're gonna get 6 bastions, and everyone just point your guns to the one doorway into this place.
Yeah, this funny trick with Overwatch, and this extends to all of Overwatch's design. I've said this a couple of times before. Everything and everyone is overpowered. Like, every character is more powerful than all of the others. Every map is like, oh, this is incredibly skewed, sometimes toward the attack, sometimes towards the defense. And that's like this really weird thing that works. It shouldn't.
It's like each character is overpowered if they're played by the right person on the right map on the right side. So it's like, like a Torbjorn at like let's say like Torbjorn on like a King's Row on defense would be a really good pick, and he might be seen broken, or even a Bastion on Bastion and Torbjorn on any defensive map placed in the right spot.
There was one round that you and I played where the enemy team entirely did a full team of Torbjorns, and it was Route 66. And when you're, it's one of those ones where there's a sudden blind curve, and just as you round that turn, there were 6 Torbjorns with 6 turrets.
Okay, that might have been just you, because I remember I did a Torbjorn game myself where we all said, "Hey, screw it, let's do 6 Torbjorns." It was on the Spanish-themed map.
On Dorado?
Yeah, and we
God.
It actually wasn't as overpowered as you thought, at least just for that map. We still ended up winning, but there's that one battle we did, which is Route 66. It was when you first come out of the gate, after you round a broken down train, there's a bridge. Up on the bridge was at least a Torbjorn,
a Bastion.
No, it was like a Torbjorn, 2 Bastions, a Reinhardt, a Mercy, and then I forget, maybe like a Widowmaker. It
was impenetrable.
They were behind the Reinhardt shield, because he has a shield that basically deflects all bullets up to a certain damage point.
With a really wide coverage.
Yeah. We could not break it. The only way, I think we finally broke it when, like, all of us, I remember I went into Winston, I got my ultimate just because I died so much, and then I just kind of punched them off of the bridge, and they still ended up uber killing us, but it was just like, I guess we say we can make some progress. But,
well, I mean, that's the thing. And you know what? The thing about Overwatch, again, is people are like, oh, you got a Bastion? Genji. You know, and it's like, okay, but what if Reinhardt is in front of Bastion?
Okay, you know what? That whole crap, because I tell you what, I've been getting killed by a Bastion, and I switched to a Genji, and it's like, and I get killed by the Bastion still. So,
yeah.
And you could say, yeah, you're a noob. Well, maybe I am with Genji, but it's like, I know when to hit deflect when the guy's shooting at me. If he's in the right position, your deflect doesn't have a long enough like activation duration to
Needless to say.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's certain points where, like, if your deflection's 5 seconds, he only needs 2 seconds to kill you. So if he's 7 seconds away, you're screwed. So
Needless to say, they finally nerfed a good chunk of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
because you and I were playing it right from day one, and it was just
there was. I mean, the worst one was always the McCree, which was they've since.
It's high noon.
Oh my god! One of the funniest Overwatch videos I've ever seen was the guy who did that voice, just constantly doing that the entire time he was playing with a random team.
The voice actor from McCree playing the game.
Every time he would just every few seconds he'd go, "It's high noon."
Oh Jesus!
And the entire video was just his entire team reacting to the voice every single time. So I thought that was hilarious.
That's hilarious. Oh, well, okay. Again, originally out of the gate, Bastion got a lot of hate, but hey, right now Bastion's getting a lot of love because he's got the best short that they've made yet.
Yeah, he has a brand new animated short that I think that's just like it's showing, like it's introducing kind of the hero and giving him a little bit of backstory. But have you had a chance to watch it?
Oh my God, Pixar, watch out!
Yet.
It's incredibly beautiful. It is. We are talking, Finding Nemo level of animation. Just this is Blizzard pulling no punches.
Wow.
It follows, and I say Pixar because also it follows the Pixar story that every single Pixar film does. It just condenses it into a 8-10 minute video. Mm-hmm. And it focuses on Bastion. It has the whole, mood whiplash kind of thing going on. It explains kind of his origin, quote unquote. go watch it. There's no excuse why you can't watch it, listeners. Just go do it. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. You know, we're just going to be talking about Gamescom. So come on back, and by that time we'll hey, wow, welcome back.
We're still here. But it's got amazing. I don't know. It's blah 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 blah. But in the community, I was trying to figure out the best way of which way I wanted to take this. But whether it's like professional reviews, professional magazines, whether it's Gamecoms or any part of the community, people have been raving about this short. So it is something to behold, whether you're an Overwatch fan or not. I mean, maybe it's the thing that gets you into Overwatch. Who knows?
I sent it to Alec on Facebook. I said, maybe this will be the thing to convince you, because he's a huge fan of that kind of animation. And it's just like, literally, if Blizzard said, we're going to use this animation team to release an Overwatch movie,
you'd be more than okay to watch it.
Oh, I just got goosebumps at the thought of it. And I know this has happened forever. Hey, Blizzard, you should make a StarCraft movie with your cinematics. Hey, Blizzard, you should make a WoW movie with your cinematics. Okay, well, we know how the WoW movie worked. Okay, maybe.
They shot themselves in the foot for that one, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Well, here's the thing. Truth be told, they are doing it, and it's just they're telling it through the medium of the game. They're telling it through the medium of these shorts. They have some really, kind of okay comics on their website. They're not anything groundbreaking, but they're fun. If you,
I mean, they're giving it a chance.
Yeah,
but
I'm just looking ahead here. A hilarious change that Blizzard did make.
I love it
because they've been trying to promote. Overwatch came out of the gate with a really good community, and unfortunately, as with everything, it kind of, as the competitive nature, that is befitting of such games started to arise, people started getting a little bit salty, and particularly the kind of person that comes in is like, when they finish a game, and especially if they trounce you.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you guys suck. This is easy. This wasn't. I didn't even break a sweat. You guys should all die. That kind of guy. So at first, since everyone was kind of sucked mutually at the game, everyone was kind of good. Everyone. Oh man, hey, that was a really close game. Thanks.
Yeah,
guys
you
for
and
playing.
I were having some great games where it was like you finish and you say, "Gee, I think I like." Someone on your team could be like, "Gee, I think I like Winston." Yeah, you were doing pretty good with him, man.
Yeah, but now it's purely like, oh, you died once, you suck, noob, go off, die. So. Well, I guess one of the more famous ways of being that kind of salty guy at the end of a match, or even like midway through the match, if you want to be a real big douche, is that you would go, GG, easy, meaning good game, that was too easy kind of thing.
Right.
And I think it's just on the test server right now, but it wasn't announced in their patch, but people have since discovered that if you type in exactly GG space EZ, it changes it to a multitude of predetermined statements. I think one was like, I'm so emotionally distraught. Someone please come over here and hold me or something
My
like that.
My mommy says I shouldn't be playing these games. Well done, lads. It's been a pleasure to play with all of you. You're wonderful people. It changes it to the most awesome things. It's hilarious.
I love that. I really hope they roll it out to the regular server, but people are gonna. I mean, there's always gonna be ways to get around it, but I just think it's hilarious. I can just picture one of the developers or one of the moderators just being like, "Hey guys, look at this for a little side project. What do you guys think?" And everyone's just like, "Okay, we all need to get in on this." And they did a big company pool. Like, okay, what's the most insane?
Let's come up with
stuff
phrases. Yeah.
Oh, that would be.
It also coincides. Well, it doesn't necessarily coincide, but they've also released some new emotes. Which everybody has a laughter one now, a relax one and a laughter one, which I think are really cool. It's kind of the emotes, you aren't ever really going to use them except maybe when you're first starting is when I see them the most. Sometimes it's I've loved, one of my favorite things in Overwatch is if you're the attacking team, run over to the wall separating you and the defending team so you can see them and you wave to them.
Yeah, and see if they can wave back.
Because your character will be like, hi, And so there's basically, they've released relaxing ones and laughter ones that are all pretty great. They're pretty good. It's good vibes. I like Overwatch's vibes. It's nice.
All the vibes.
It's a friendly game. And here's something that's not friendly. They had their Atlantic Showdown this weekend, which I'm really bummed about because I thought it was this coming weekend.
So is the Atlantic Showdown kind of like their big tournament? Like I only noticed because I knew
Sorta.
one of the gaming teams on there.
Yeah,
because they have multiple teams in different types of esports. But yeah, it looked like a bigger game. But it was like what the ground prize was. I think $60K. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was a 100K pool.
Yeah.
Grand prize was 40K, and it went to Rogue, Team Rogue. But you had teams like Fnatic and Cloud9.
That was the one I was looking at. Yeah,
like you said, you've heard them in other. These are like franchise teams, right? They're across all games, all genres. But yeah, that happened during Gamescom. I feel bummed that I missed it, but just letting our listeners know, in the esports world, Overwatch is doing its thing.
Mm-hmm. Also in the realm of, I would say, the team shooter, but not in the way of Overwatch, more in the way of Battlefield, which is Battlefield 1, which would be the next iteration in the Battlefield multiplayer genre series.
Can I just say how much the name frustrates me?
Battlefield 1, because it sounds like the very first one.
Oh, I go through this with so many games when the games try and reinvent themselves. Doom is called Doom right now, and it's
like Doom 25.
Well, do I look up Doom, what, Doom 1? How do I find the original Doom now?
Wow.
It's just like, oh.
But yeah, Battlefield 1 is the Battlefield take on World War 1, but the thing that annoys me...
Just call it Battlefield World War 1!
Yeah, that would be perfect. That would just be... Everyone would know exactly what it is. Or just Battlefield WW1 or something. Just so
frustrating.
So Gamescom, they announced they debuted another trailer. There's loads of gameplay stuff on it now. So the trailer might not be as big of a deal, because if you do a quick search, you can find tons of I'd say official and unofficial gameplay with it. But then they also announced that the beta for it, is this the closed or the open beta?
Open beta.
The open beta is on the 31st. That is August 31st.
That will be a couple days from this going out.
Yeah, from the time of when you hear this recording, it's going to be that
when
following
this reaches
Wednesday.
Your ear holes.
When it finally hits. But with that being said, my biggest gripe with this game is that it's not World War frickin' 1. The only thing about it that's World War 1 is that, yes, they use World War 1 weapons. I'm going to say they use accurate weapons, but they use weapons from the time period as well as vehicles from the time period. But
horses.
Well, yeah, horses, really like primitive tanks, and like really like horrible, like very first level like propeller fighter jets.
Yeah, biplanes.
But if you watch the History Channel on World War 1 for like 5 minutes, you could instantly tell, hey, where the hell's all the trenches? It's a
Get
freaking
schooled, Dice.
The entire world, most of the, I wouldn't say the entire thing, the vast majority of World War I was nothing but, okay, I'm going to sit in this trench until someone tells me to run, and then maybe I'll die. That was all World War I. It was nothing but...
It was the first war that introduced real gunplay. So it wasn't like World War II, they knew their way around the weapons, but even then you still had these bolt-action rifles, M1 Garands and things like that.
Yes.
But World War I, it was like, oh my god, do I use this? Oh boy, you know?
It was mainly two trenches facing each other with a giant dead zone in between them. Whoever was the unlucky person to say, like, okay, now you run out into the dead zone, the entire other trench just mowed you down with whatever weapon they had. And
it's a weird war to romanticize. Like, you know what I mean?
It was just this gritty, dirty kind. I mean, it was just, like I said, it was people sitting in trenches, and then a bunch of artillery fire, and then occasionally some people would run out and they would get shot. Occasionally you would get melee combat in trench warfare, but there was a lot of like mustard gas. I mean, it wasn't a war that, yeah, like you said, it's not. They might have a few defining battles, but it's not like a battle like in World War II where it's like a lot's going on. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of, it's a weird take on the game, but obviously because it's Battlefield and they're saying it's not, World War I exactly. It's based on World War I, which is, I guess, their footnote for getting rid of it. But
I guess I would prefer if they were erring on the side of fantastical, because they are making a big thing of showing, like, look at this Zeppelin, oh, the humanity, and I almost want the BioShock take on World War I. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with what they're doing to it, I mean, I guess for anyone who's just a Battlefield or Call of Duty player, you're probably not going to give a damn. But for anyone else who's like hoping to play like a PvP shooter in like traditional World War One, it's nowhere close to it. I mean, if you look at the gameplay videos, the only bolt action, at least that I saw, was for the sniper guy, like for a sniper unit.
Right.
You kidding me?
Where's my rifle?
Almost all the guns were single shots, but no one likes single shot in PvP, so we're not going to do it. Well,
I miss having single shot rifles in games.
The original Call of Duty, the M1 Garand was my favorite gun.
Same here.
The fact that after 5 or 6 quick shot, you get that bing. That was like one of my favorite sounds. I mean, I'm
right with you on that. My God.
I used to love that, but apparently not anymore. And it's like, and when I say trench warfare, the reason why I'm like griping on it is because all the maps they've showed have been like, hey, look, it's a nice little village on this hill that has a bunch of buildings, and then all the buildings are somewhat kind of destructible. And there's a barn over here. It doesn't happen that way. But it's
I'm also a bit frustrated because I did want to see those villages, because that does take me back a little bit to Call of Duty and Call of Duty 2. But it looks like the beta is going to be the desert map, which it's like, no, that we've had deserts since the Iraq War happened. Yeah, that's all that we've had in games. I want to go back to the villages. I want to go back to the tight European villages. I love those maps. Those are my favorite maps in those kind of games.
I would agree with you, but they're not World War One.
It's not World War One. It's World War Two. It's
that's what I'm saying. It's like even the original Call of Duty, like Call of Duty 1 and 2, that like the original launches of like actual good military games were definitely from World War II. So it's like, I would have. There's kind of a part of me that would have liked like a single player campaign that was just like, you are trying to be one of many people stuck in a trench, and you're kind of shooting over the trench and things like that, or like you get a command to like run to the next trench, and you have to sit there and run around like but tank ties or whatever they're called.
It's almost like Gears of War is a better trench warfare game just because of the cover system.
Yeah, because that would be a good point. I didn't think about that, but yeah, the run gun cover system would be great, but it wouldn't. I can see why, from a production standpoint, you wouldn't do it, because it would be a hard game to actually enjoy, because it'd just be a lot of waiting and occasionally shooting and a lot of waiting. And
But then again, what's Battlefield but a lot of running long distances to get to something, you know? It is a kind of a waiting game.
Yeah, but it's not like...
my experience with Battlefield is running from one side of the map to the other, which takes you probably 10 minutes just to have someone else take the car.
Yeah,
you know?
but there's a big difference from, I would say, the PvP Battlefield type of take, where it's really you are your own person running around, versus like, we're a squad, we need to be a squad, we need to have very long distance troop movement. It's really just as soon as the game starts, people just scatter because no one cares from a team perspective, maybe besides, okay, maybe we should go attack A this time. But even the gameplay, like you said, it's definitely far more open. It's far... I'd say, there's a lot of distance to cover, and a lot of like distance even to shoot over. But it's like, there was a lot of walking between points, and even when you went to a point, a lot of times it would just be you and maybe the guy capturing it or defending it. So it's like...
And you know, you're shit out of luck if you show up there and, it's your argument is invalid. I've brought a tank.
Yeah, it's like... But, but in any other type of setting, it's going to be... this point's being contested because there's like 30 people on it. You know what I mean? It's like that to me would be a much better suit for this. But Battlefield 1,
I'm more than likely going to try the beta. I'm very curious about it. Last Battlefield game I played was 4. I played a good amount of it. It is a game that cries to be played co-op, and I didn't do that. You know, I just kind of played a couple of it, and I was like, this is cool. I had a couple people who wanted to play it. It's just like,
I almost got the game, but then by the time I almost got it, it was the entire community died out, so I was like, well, there's no point now. But
I'm surprised. There are people who are still Battlefield 4 loyalists, but I think that it's few and far between.
Yeah, exactly. But Battlefield 1, open beta, 31st. I mean, I will say the game looks gorgeous, it sounds gorgeous, and it performs gorgeously.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just...
They have a good format. They know what they're doing. I trust them.
They're gonna give you a good shooter, but it's not gonna be a traditional. Not traditional, maybe a historically accurate shooter. But Battlefield 1, August 31st. Go check it out. Open beta, sign-up's real easy. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, going from realistic, gritty to completely out there, over the top,
insane,
is Shadow Warrior 2.
Oh
my God. I wasn't even familiar with the first one. I just randomly saw a video because it was like posted through like PC Gamer's like YouTube stream or something. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll watch this. And oh my God, it was like Duke Nukem meets samurais meets weird alien things meets like Dead Rising meets I don't even know what it is.
So the story with Shadow Warrior is that it actually is an original I want to say like Doom clone, Doom era game, and I guess original Duke Nukem era game, and it was from that school of thought of like, I mean, the main character's name is Lo Wang, and he's exactly as serious about that as you think he would be,
Exactly.
And he's spouting off one-liners. It's a little bit racist. It's kind of a bit racist.
Who would have thought?
Recently, Flying Hog, I want to say is the name of the company, reimagined it with a new, obviously very fresh, up-to-date take on it with the Shadow Warrior remake that was, God, I want to say 2013, but I could be wrong on that. And I had seen it popping up in Steam time and time again. And then finally last year around Halloween, it was on a killer sale. It was like $4. And I said, I've eyeballed this enough. I'm going to pick this up. And just thinking, this looks like a demon shooty kind of game. It's Halloween. I like to do this around this time of year. It was so good. It's so good. It's so good. It is so good. It is so great.
For a 2013 era game, I just checked real quick.
I know, for so old school, right?
I know, it's so old.
Remarkably good story. It starts off kind of being like, hey, I'm Lo Wang, check out my Lo Wang, and over the course of it, he has like character development. There's this, it's a very Japanese kind of almost tragic story. He gets involved with this, what do they call it? Onis, right? They're sort of demons, but they're benevolent. Trickster demon, kind of a trickster demon thing. Basically becomes part of him, aka you. And so there's this great excuse to have this banter between you and this guy that basically is living in your head. And he's this sarcastic guy, and you're a little sarcastic. So the humor and how you're dealing with these, demon forces facing you, it's fun. It's actually fun to play. And again, without spoiling anything, the story is shockingly emotional. Very much worth getting to the end. That being said, it does have old school sensibilities. It draws very much, for better or for worse, from the arena psychology. The Doom mentality of, okay, we're going to throw you into a huge open space. And every demon or monster or alien, what have you, that you've fought so far, here they all are in waves. Yeah. And you're just going to fight them wave after wave after wave until we've decided basically that you've had enough abuse.
Until the map's finally clear, whatever the heck it is you're trying to shoot.
And then you're just like, cool, that guy that was like a boss 5 levels back, here's 3 of them.
Oh, like, I used to hate those.
Yeah, and it does that, and it does that a lot. And increasingly by the end, and maybe for me, I think I said this to you in chat earlier, that I was actually so interested in seeing where the story was going that I was kind of like, oh, come on, But if you're coming from the mentality of, right, if you're coming from the mentality of, I want to play an old school style arena, arena combat kind of game, this is great. It's a great version of that. So best of both worlds, really.
I think that's one of the things that has to be highlighted for this, or the thing that really stood out for me was just the vast diversity and insanity of the weapons.
Killer moveset.
I don't know if Shadow Warrior 1 was as extreme as 2, but like 2 had like flaming katanas, frost katanas, some kind of weird, like they had shot off shotguns, they had like beam weapons, shock weapons, rocket launchers, teleporty kind of guns, like
basically, what one did was it had your standard, okay, you have a really cool pistol, you have a really cool shotgun, you have a really cool machine gun, you have a really cool BFG,
Yep.
You have two, you have that, and then you upgrade them. So it's like, and now your shotguns have 4, you have 2 shotguns and you have 4 barrels. Or now your BFG is a really BFG, you know, and it's just like you would upgrade your existing weapons to be these insane things. In addition to having a killer katana, which just was like, when all else failed, you had that. And you had different moves, like keystrokes that would, you know, do I'm going to do a AoE sweep with it, or I'm going to do a jab kind of move. This looks like Shadow Warrior 2 is just taking that up to the next level times 1,000.
Yeah, at least in the gameplay video, which I think was maybe pre-alpha at this point. Don't quote me on that. But it looked like at least that it was a lot of you find a weapon on the ground, you pick it up. But I also think the way it was placed in the video, it seemed like it was just like they were there to demo. Like I think it was there at Gamescom to say like, oh look, these are the types of weapons you can have. So I don't think it was accurate. Yeah. So I don't know if it's going to be like an upgrade thing, like you said, or if it's going to be like a market, or just if you discover them, you get them. But yeah, it was
more than likely the way that these games tend to work is that you get them almost like at scripted moments.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. But
like, congratulations, you beat the level 2 boss, you get the shotgun.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's the insane diversity of them. But like the ones they picked up changed out the ones they already had, so I don't know if that's how their mechanic's going to stay or what, but oh my god.
One thing that is a very clear and very, very, very awesome thing that's coming to Shadow Warrior 2 is 4-player co-op.
Oh my god. When you told me that, I almost fell out of my chair, because
we're going to be getting this.
This game, if they scale the number of enemies by how many people are in your co-op, this game is going to be so visceral.
Yeah, it already was incredibly, you know, people were saying that Doom is like, wow, this is really gory and textural. Yeah, go play Shadow Warrior, same deal.
But yeah, can you imagine like double the enemies with 2 people with like katanas flying around? I mean, it's going to be
meat chunks for everybody.
It's going to be so awesome. I am really looking forward to that game. This went on my watch list pretty heavily. So
this has been on my watch list since, because when I finished Shadow Warrior last fall, they were already talking about 2. So I was like, oh, thank God.
So one's on my wish list. I'm hoping I get a good Steam sale on it this winter. But please go check out Shadow Warrior 2 Gamescom gameplay footage. It is amazing.
Yes. Super stoked. Hey, here's another sequel that I am so stoked for.
What? You're happy for this? No way. I haven't heard you talk about this at all over like the past like 5 months at graphic detail.
Oh my god. Ladies and gentlemen, Dishonored 2 continues to look like the best thing ever. Just the best. Literally the best. It just looks like the best thing ever.
Not that that's coming from the voices of a somewhat major fanboy at all, not biased whatsoever.
It's literally objectively the best game ever. No, I don't care if you're into FIFA or if you're into Formula 1 racing. I don't care if you only play Candy Crush. Dishonored 2 looks like it's going to be the best game ever. What Dishonored does is it gives you it's a stealth game with these scripted scripted in the sense that there's a scenario, like an objective, for example, a person you have to, in one means or another, incapacitate, and it gives you the biggest toy box you could ask for in this kind of game. I was really planning on talking more about this at a future episode, because Dishonored 2 is coming out in November.
So, I mean, this really can just be, hey, guess what? They released all these cool things. Let's go look at that. And
yep, there's more videos. Basically, it's a lot of Emily's gameplay, which Emily,
oh, yeah,
you can play as Emily in this one.
That's a big announcement.
Yes. Very excited about the fact, a big beef with the first Dishonored is that actually people felt that the non-lethal versus lethal gameplay, because you could essentially, it was a little too binary, basically, was the complaint. You could essentially play the game as non-lethal, and this is how I did it, not killing anyone, not being seen, and it changes your story, specifically, especially the last mission, or you could play lethal, and it changes very dramatically the last mission. And people felt like it was a little bit too much, boy, they give you a lot of really cool things that are ways to kill people. Not a lot, when you're incapacitating people, it's mostly you're just doing sleeper holds, right?
Yep.
And
every single time.
and that, I can agree that was like, well, that's that. So they've introduced with Dishonored 2 more like stun mines and stun grenades and things that are, oh, this will put them to sleep, so you can then, hide the body or whatever. But the addition of Emily as a playable character, she actually has a different skill set than Corvo, so that's very interesting, because part of me is like, well, I kind of want to continue I almost think what I might do is I continue my non-lethal Corvo and then play through the game again as a full lethal Emily, just to see what that feels like.
Yeah, I think that'd be probably a good idea, considering that was like one of the bigger things, is that in this game you can choose between Corvo or Emily, like at the start, and then that's your character. Like, that's your playthrough character.
And I think that the story is like, the vibe that I got is that one of them gets captured. You're going to a different area in this one. It's not Dunwall, which is initially I was like, oh, I love Dunwall. That's such a cool environment. But Karnaca looks really cool. It's kind of like a tropical colony, like a British colony in a tropical place. Instead of rats, they have mosquitoes, which is disgusting. But I will learn to live with that. Otherwise, it continues. One of the coolest things about Dishonored is its aesthetic. It has this kind of like, everyone looks like they live in an oil painting. Like, if you look at a character, the textures are very oily. It has a kind of a very, we talk about visceral. It's very visceral, these games.
Yeah. But
I have written here as my bullet point, "Hoo boy, yes, heck yes," and I think that sums it up.
Yep, I can vouch for that. He got a little bit crazy on the Google Doc, but we will be covering this in, I would say, far more detail later, just because it will be a big discussion point, whether or not for the gaming community or just for Tom. But on this channel, it will be a long discussion. So tune in on a later date for that one.
We'll put it all into one episode, so those of you who aren't interested can just skip that one.
It will be like, Tom's Dishonored 2 Extravaganza, and then Brian comes along.
Brian, what have you been playing this week? Well, that's nice.
Yep, and that's been episode 27. But a big sequel that I'm very excited for is South Park Fractured Butthole. I mean, I know. The first game I was so pleasantly surprised with. It was just amazing. I mean, for those who don't know, South Park, out of all people, released a RPG, a lengthy RPG set in I would say, their take on a Lord of the Rings, kind of a fantasy realm, where you're playing as a new kid going along with all the other normal South Park characters in the South Park town. Everyone returns. It has tons of throwbacks. It is, and I mean, it's just such an amazing game.
It was made by Obsidian. And I remember when that first was announced, everybody lost their shit, because it was like, Obsidian? I mean, Obsidian is Fallout New Vegas, Dungeon Siege 3, Neverwinter Nights 2, Knights of the Old Republic 2. Yeah. It's like,
they were
going to make a South Park game?
It seemed like it was a weird match, but the deliverable was so... I mean, every little bit about this game I loved. I mean, I could go on for hours. Just kind of like
it's sitting in my Steam library.
Oh my god, you need to play it. It was such a good game. I actually was meaning to replay it, but other stuff has come up. But South Park the first one was A Stick of Truth. This one, Fractured But Whole, is actually, it's kind of the South Park take on, oh my god, what was it? Marvel, basically.
Marvel versus DC, Marvel in general.
It's like it's very same, it's, same thing. You're still the new kid, you're still in South Park, but instead of Cartman being a wizard, Cartman's now the Coon again, and now you're joining Coon and friends going against the other squads of the other kids in the town. But
I love it.
And the thing that's best about this one, there is so much more character creation, which is the best thing ever. Because in the first one, it was like you have a fighter, an archer, a mage, and a Jew. I do not mean not to be racist. That is actually one of the classes.
That's one of the classes.
And that was just that they get my big worry for the first one was that they're going to overdo the South Park level, and then it was just going to be like, oh, this is a terrible game just covered in fart jokes. But it's an amazing game covered in amazing fart jokes.
Oh my god, that's a back of the box review if I've ever heard one.
It was just like they got the gameplay perfect, they got all the humor perfect. I mean, it was just a perfect combination of a game and South Park. So this one is going to be very similar, but when you look at the GameCon, I would say the gameplay video. The character creation, you went from maybe 4 classes to like it almost seemed like 10 plus in all these.
Well, that's the great thing about superhero games. It always opens the door to that.
There was like a whole character, Flash character. I'd say like telekinesis, frost and fire, like laser beam kind of guy. So there's all these different takes on different types of superpowers, and the only like in the demo they had, I think there was 3 that were playable. I don't know if that's because you have to unlock the rest of them or just like the other ones are still just in development still. But not only do you choose like your class, if you will, that makes up all your abilities, you also pick like what caused you to be a superhero, what's your background,
your origin,
like what's your motivation. You pick out your costumes, and your costumes have certain types of effects onto your character. It is going to be such a great game.
It's the City of Heroes effect.
Exactly. It is literally, you get to play a superhero in South Park, and that's the big thing. The big thing in the very first one, the Stick of Truth, the combat was original Final Fantasy. 3 people versus 3 people, turn-based. This one, I don't know if it's still going to be 3v3, but even if it is, the big change on this one is that there's positions on the board. So it's like,
I saw that.
Yeah, the entire thing is like a checkerboard now, and it's like you can move part of your phase is that you can move your character to a different lane, in behind somebody, in front of somebody, like so. Your ability could hit everyone in a lane. It could hit a person 2 squares in front of you. It could hit people like 1 square on either side of you. I mean, so I would say the combat's actually going to get an extra level of depth in this one. So I am super friggin' excited for this game.
I'm so stoked. When's it coming out? Do you know?
I'm super friggin' excited for this game to the point where I don't read up on minor information.
I'm just in a haze. I'm just in a blur of excitement.
But yeah, no,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I just was curious because I want to know how long I have until I can play.
Like I said to you earlier today, there's too many games on this list for me to get all the minor details I would like. I'm not 100% sure. I could probably look.
I put out a thing on all sorts of social media. I think this may potentially be the biggest year ever for video games, probably since 2005, as you mentioned.
Oh yeah, I mean, there is so much coming out, and
if you want to know how great 2005 was, listen to last week's Addicted to Loot.
But so Fractured But Whole coming out December 6th, 2016. So it's
thank God.
Yeah,
I got some time.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely time, but I mean, it's not going to be too long. I mean, it's going to come up real quick, but oh my God.
Well, yeah, I'll be playing Dishonored 2. I'll be playing
there's too many
probably
things.
Still No Man's Sky.
There's going to be coming a time where our entire podcast is like, we just keep on commenting on like the first 5 minutes of every game, and then our backlog is going to be 20 deep.
God.
But Fractured But Whole, look it up, fall in love, just enjoy every little bit of it.
Yeah, they have a video of, I guess maybe it's the opening, maybe it was a trailer, I don't remember, but they're lampooning the Marvel Cinematic Universe to a perfect T. And I'm a huge fan
it's one of the trailers.
MCU. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Marvel. I'm looking right now at an Avengers poster just above my computer, and Nick Fury has 2 googly eyes on him, which is really weird because he should probably only have 1, but hey, whatever, I live in a fantasy world. Anyway, I think that this is just I'm going to be really stoked to play this.
Yeah. So definitely tune in for more updates as we go on.
So, Brian, what's this next one here? Sea of Thieves.
Okay, so the best way to describe Sea of Thieves, take Star Citizen to space,
listening.
Sea of Thieves, the pirates.
Okay.
But I would say not nearly as big of a budget, obviously. But Sea of Thieves is basically, like I just said, it's you do everything on a ship, on land. You can drink grog, you can drink beer. But like if you're on a boat, like you require like 4 people to slowly crank up the anchor. You need a few people to actually adjust the sails to the level you need them to. You have 1 person to steer. You have, then when you get into battle, everyone who's not steering can line up on the side, grab a cannon, position the cannon, shoot the cannon. And then, like, if you get a cannonball through your hole, you actually have to go downstairs and, like, board up the hole, like, so you can get the water out. And then, like, actually the ship will start filling up with water. So, I mean, it's that level.
I just got butterflies.
I mean,
that sounds amazing.
It does, doesn't it?
I now regret not looking this up before doing this podcast.
Here's the downside.
Oh.
It's a game. I'll also preface this another way. It's not set realistically. The animation, the style is definitely more like arcadey, cartoony, piratey, from a visual standpoint. So it's not going to be that visceral, like, there's crashing waves and there's white caps and
Assassin's Creed 4.
Exactly. It's nowhere near that whatsoever. But it's a game that I just couldn't see myself getting into it. It's a game that's I love the concept of it, but I think it's weird. I think the concept is great, but the execution is super. I'm gonna say not super light, but it's almost like super hollow. That's probably the better way of saying it. It's like on the surface it looks kind of cool, but I don't think there's enough there to make it super exciting. Like I said, like even the bigger ships only takes a few people to do, and they didn't show land combat, and they only really showed you jumping up and down, like drinking a beer, and then like your beer like makes your vision blurry and you can swim, this, that, and the other thing. But maybe it's just because it was still close to alpha, but I just don't know. I'm actually more hesitant with this game than excited. When I first read an article on it, I was super excited. Then I saw it, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, and I see where you're coming from.
It's like real life pirate lights.
Well, maybe you'd be interested in Tempest then.
Well,
Tempest, which by the way. Well, all I know is that it was released from early access. It's another pirate simulator.
Yeah, and I think it's also co-op, but not to the same level. I think like you and a few, like 1 or 2 people could pilot a ship, not like you and 20 people could pilot a ship.
Boy, I got the impression it was even a straight up single player. So I don't know.
At least I thought it said co-op. Maybe it was co-op per boat.
It might be.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But I was looking at that too, and
Tempest is much more realistic style-wise.
I mean, yeah, yes and no. I mean,
well, I should say art-wise.
Okay, art-wise, yes, I would agree with you there.
Art-wise, yes.
But I don't know. It's almost like but once again, it's not like Assassin's Creed 4. It's not your boat piloting and control. Is almost like it's a very throwback game. The original Pirates of the Caribbean game, which was it was called Pirates of the Caribbean, and the only association it had was basically the plot of there's an undead pirate ship somewhere.
Sure, yeah, but one of those kind of tie-ins.
It functioned like that. It's like you're like a third-person ship view. You pilot it around. You can shoot the same way, like by pulling like one button kind of thing. You can adjust your speeds, but it's not like Assassin's Creed 4 when you can zoom in and you just get the intense action of the battle. And then but also you have kind of the cool fantasy things of the fact that there's a Kraken who's like 20 times your ship that you have to fight, and there's tons of big monsters. It's not just like one monster. They make actually a ton of monsters in it. So
pirate games are really hard because do you go on the side of realism or do you go on the side of the fantasy of it? Because I personally really like the fantasy edge of pirates, where it is like you're going out in the high seas and oh my god, here's a Kraken. That's cool. But I also really do like Assassin's Creed 4 is the realistic, believe it or not, side of piracy, by comparison.
Going to that analogy, I would want a fantasy pirate game in terms of world with real life pirate execution. Like, I would want to be able to have the, like, Assassin's Creed 4 battle and, like, visual mechanic paired with the fact that I'm now battling something with 8 tentacles. Like,
right.
I would like that. Like, where you're literally just like...
Yeah.
kind of going back to one of the things you like, which is like, the trading mechanisms. Like let's say like you're a pirate, you pick up one port, you're going to another port, and you're just sitting there literally just chugging away. It's a nice crisp day, there's sun, there's no clouds, the water's great, and people are just singing
a jolly sea
shanty. Exactly, just doing all that, but then all of a sudden, like this massive whirlpool of, just something just bursts out of the sea, and you're like, oh crap, like that would be like my level of like what I think it would be. Like it should be something that is like a chance occurrence, doesn't happen a lot, but it's there. And it's... Well,
I'll tell you, before I started looking up the screenshots, when you said Star Citizen Pirates, I was like, okay, all right.
That's what I'm saying. The concept's that way, just not the execution, which is what really kind of bums me out, because it's a game...
Well, who knows, because there are some co-op games where you really... Or even single-player games, like FTL comes to mind.
I really love FTL.
And you completely forget what FTL looks like when you're playing it, because in your mind, when it's like, oh my god, my ship's depressurizing, my cabin's on fire, how do I put this out? But if you look at the game, it's like, what is this? But, what are these pixels?
I think like something like FTL thoroughly and successfully executes on what it's going for. And I love FTL, I mean, a lot. But a game like, let's say, Sea of Thieves, I think it will give you that gimmick of, let's say, fully manning a boat, but it might not give you it in the sense of pure, like, you'd lose yourself in it, like pure immersion. Because it's like when you look at the battle, it's not like if you're manning a cannon and someone hits the hole right below you with another cannon, you don't feel it. There's not like a big like vibration or a give. If you just kind of fall off the ship, you literally just go from point A to point B. There's not like your camera swirls around because you just went head first in. There's not like waves crashing over you. It's like I said, it's very hollow. It's like, oh, I can shoot a cannon. Like it's like one thing at like shooting at a cannon at a wall, and the wall takes damage, and then when it hits zero, it just kind of disappears. Versus you take a cannon, you shoot at a wall, and then it starts to chip, and it starts to crack, and then it starts to bow over, and then finally you see each and every piece fall as it starts to crumble. You're missing that.
It's the MMO combat versus the action RPG.
Yeah, I mean that's
RPG
the problem. Like
combat.
It's just you don't feel the impact of you being in the world doing what you're doing.
I do want to give a quick shout out while we're talking about pirate games to one of my favorite things that I'm looking forward to. That's an indie game called Return of the Obra Dinn. If you're into especially the fantasy side of it, this is not a pirate game. This is a story game. There's a demo on itch. I will definitely link it in the notes. You're going about, you go onto a ship and you find this book, and it's the log of everyone who's on the ship, but everyone's gone. The ship's abandoned, seemingly, and you can only go through one door, and you see a skeleton. And so when you look at the skeleton, you have a device that lets you see the moment that previously alive person died. And so you have, in the logbook, you have a space to say what the fate of a crew member was, and who maybe caused that fate. So, for example, one of them you could see a guy getting shot, and clearly he's getting shot where that skeleton is, and you could see he's getting shot, and there's a little kind of mini cutscene that plays out. He's getting shot by a guy who's speaking Scottish, for example. It's Scottish accent, rather. He's speaking the great language of Scottish. And so you could start to discern, like, okay, he was shot, he was dead, his current state is dead. He was shot by a gun by, let's see, well, the first mate's name is McDougal. I don't want to jump to assumptions, and so it's like a logic game.
Oh, okay.
And as you're going along and you experience each of these cutscenes, you see maybe something else happening, something more, or you get a hint towards something. You can say, oh, no, it couldn't have been McDougal. Huh, well, who would this have been? Or maybe it wasn't the person you thought that shot, or et cetera, et cetera. It's still in development, but there is a playable demo. Really cool, really fun. Go check it out.
Going on right along through our Gamescom coverage, another big sequel within a franchise is Dead Rising 4. I mean, this
one's all you.
Dead Rising 4. So if you're not familiar, Dead Rising, it started out as in a mall. Basically, you're a reporter stuck in a mall that all of a sudden there's a zombie outbreak, and you just have to just basically grind your way through this horde of zombies while you're solving different parts of the story. It's kind of like if you had to actually have a open world experience where you're running around solving missions or completing missions, but in between or even during the missions, you're just literally chainsawing through hundreds of zombies. It's
to date, that is literally my extent of my knowledge of Dead Rising.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty good...
What you just described.
It's a pretty good body of knowledge, because that's really what all of them set out to do. I mean, it's not...
Really?
Well, it's all the zombies are, I would say... It's not like Resident Evil where they get harder or anything else. They're all just kind of mindless kind of people. They just kind of bum around. They're really just there for you to think of creative ways to kill them. I mean, that's really the entire extent of the zombies, minus like the bosses here and there. So, like, Dead Rising 1 was in a mall. I don't know if Dead 2 was Dead Island. There was a few of them. I'm not going to get them all right. But first one was in a mall. Then they had another one on an island, which was actually really good. I played a little bit of it. The one on the island was interesting because they focused far more on the crafting side of it versus... I'd say like the gameplay part of it is like, because that's the big draw to Dead Rising, is that you can take like a random pipe you found and tape a chainsaw to it, and now you just made a longer chainsaw. Or like you can take a...
Why am I not playing this?
Well, it's like, or you can make like you can take like a can of spray paint, some Hulk gloves, and now you have flaming punching hands or something like that.
Why am I not playing this?
It literally is. You can just make oodles of different combinations of things, and each kind of iteration reinforced that. And it was like that. The Dead Island, the one I played, was the same thing, but it was like far more. It was almost like survival crafting, not like fantasy crafting. It was like, okay, so when I first start out, I could have... I mean, my character's either good with blunt weapons, sharp weapons, fists, or what have you, and then you can like, okay, well, I found a butcher's knife. It's not going to last me that long, and now I need to find a better weapon or craft a better weapon, and it kind of built on that. Dead Rising 4 looks like this one is set in a city, not really sure which city. Which city, that might have been a...
Subliminal commentary.
Yeah, that might have been a Freudian slip. But Dead Rising 4, once again, very big open world, in a city, tons of zombies, and they just keep on cranking the intensity of the crafting and the weapons up to like 11 now. So...
Where do you go from 11, though? I mean, that's my question.
At this point, like, Dead Rising 4 has like the point, like, there's like wearable mechs. Then you can even increase the mech. Like, there's a guy, like, it's like a power suit. So you put on a power suit, and you have like shockwave slams and things like that. But then you could also find a slushy machine, and then put it on the mech suit, and now you have freeze rays on the mech suit. Like, things like they just keep on going. And then like there's
this sounds like the Saints Row of zombie games.
It's at this point, it's probably very close to it. And
oh my god,
there's other things like they have like flaming chainsaws. They have like, you can put like a stoplight on a post with something else and make it into like a 3-colored rainbow laser.
I did see that. I thought that was hilarious.
So it just keeps on building on that. And then, but my problem with this, I think, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet on any one of our episodes, but I absolutely despise the open world push in our current state of gaming. Every single genre is making or trying to make an open world game or try to make their game more open worldy. And there's a few games that actually get it right. Like Skyrim. Skyrim was about the perfect open world game, or even like GTA 5. Like, they're open world games that do the open world right.
I wholeheartedly agree.
This game and a lot of other games, which are probably a different episode worth of conversation, it looks like they took us a really weak, shallow game, said, okay, now use the open world gimmick brush over it, and we'll sell a lot of games just because we can advertise it as an open world game with blank genre included. And
did you ever play No More Heroes on the Wii?
Oh, no. But is that the one with the guy? It's a very comedic game.
Yeah, the lightsaber you charge. Well, he has a weapon that's not a lightsaber.
Yeah,
but it's
he charges it by doing a very obscene gesture.
Yeah, you kind of have to shake the Wiimote up and down vigorously.
I thought that actually was a really good take. I thought that was actually... I didn't actually have a chance to play it, but everything I watched
it had a really bad take. It was a classic example. There was a sequel, and maybe they fixed it for the sequel, but I know that the first one, it had an open world, and the open world had collectibles, but it was dead. It was such a dead and almost pointless open world. And it was like just to give you an excuse to ride your cool motorbike from one, point to the other, point A to point B. Now, granted, that game had a lot of commentary, so maybe that was something that was flying over my head. Is like, hey, we've got an open world, and like jack shit to doing it,
But yeah, that's exactly my take of what I'm going with. Like my open world rant. It's just this game just looked like. It just gave you a bigger sandbox to kill zombies in different ways. But it looked so... Like, after 5 minutes, not even, I probably would get so bored of just slaughtering mindless zombies. It's like, well, I need a challenge, or I need something, or a driving force. And even the stuff they had, like, they showed, like, one little, like... I don't know if it was a main mission or just a side mission, but, like, he went into a little building where people... They had a radio in that said that they're trying to gather there. Things went south, so he goes into this fire station, and when he was inside the fire station, it's like almost all the zombies just like there's no zombies in it almost at all. When there's at least 6 billion zombies right outside the door, just to give or take. So it's like you walk into this door, nothing inside. Well, that's weird. And then you're just kind of like, oh, there's a jump. You kind of jump down here. Okay, that's cool. Kill like maybe 2 or 3 zombies that are on the ground floor. Oh, look, you found the body of the person with the radio. You take a picture of it, which is morbid. And then you break open a lock to get back outside, and that was that section of the mission. It was like there was nothing there. And the trailers look kind of... They might have some upside to them. Like there was one that seemed like you fought your way through a sewer system to get to another gate where you find a new strange type of zombie. But it all just looks so...
It sounds unbalanced in what it's offering.
It's just, I think this game...
Uneven, rather.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of saying it. I think this game is an example of a company going, hey, let's keep on beating the money horse just this time.
Yeah.
Let's just give it more hats, and you know what? Give it louder sounds, and... Don't focus on anything else. Just.
Well, kind of going back to Saints Row really quick. Saints Row 4 reused Saints Row 3's city. I mean, literally, it's the same exact city. It's not like they remade it. It's just this. This could have been built as like a mod for Saints Row 3. And because what Saints Row 4 does is it introduces superpowers. You still have like vehicle customization, the ability to steal a vehicle, but it becomes immediately pointless when by like 20 minutes into the game, not even like 10 minutes into the game, you can already run faster than any car. So it's kind of like this example of like, let's introduce new toys. Oh crap, we kind of wrecked some of our limiting in the system that previously existed,
Yeah.
When you can literally leap tall buildings in a single bound, there's no point in having airplanes.
Who wants a car? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. This game just seems like it's like a shallow hole of a game that might at one point in time been a great concept, but now the concept's crashed into the crowd with a loud explosion, and it's kind of like Sonic or Mario. It just needs to be put it needs to be put to death.
Do you think that it's the commentary on zombie games? Zombie games, more like. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Sort of similarly, something that maybe I don't know should come back. Maybe they'll do it right this time. Watch Dogs 2 is still a thing that's happening.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. We both had very negative experiences or takes on the first one.
Yeah.
And not in the way of that it was a bad game. In the way
this wasn't like No Man's Sky where it was like, oh gee, whatever.
No, this was my problem with Watch Dogs 1. When I first played it, when I first started it up, I'm like, oh, this is exciting. There's new mechanics in it. It's like GTA 5, but like a different take. Like you're now a cyber version of GTA 5. But then within 5-10 minutes of when I first actually had control of my character, I hacked enough people to have all the money in the world, and it's like, why do I even care now? That was the problem. It's almost like what you just said with Saints Row 4. It was the game shot itself in the foot by giving you these really cool powers. Yeah, to the point of it broke the game, because there was no point for me to do side quests to gain money when I could just walk down the street and get $1 million. And then the other thing it did that I didn't really like about it was like too realistic, if that makes sense.
Oh, I know.
GTA 5, if you're driving a car down a road, there's gaps that you can, you could drift in and out of traffic, you could power slide around a corner. Watch Dogs 2 is like, or Watch Dogs 1, it was like everything was rush hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm literally running from the cops in bumper to bumper traffic going burn, like it's, you know what I mean? There was,
the story was so gritty and grungy and uncharacteristically like it was, especially when they're doing all the South Side Chicago stuff. I was like, I don't like this. I'm not having fun being here. It's like it was too much of the, hey, this is real, like, gangster gun violence that exists. I was expecting a cyberpunk game and maybe Deus Ex. I guess maybe I should have played Deus Ex. By the way, hey, guess what's out today?
I know. Oh my God, I'm so sad that I'm away from my computer.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing how that goes when you finally get into Mankind Divided. But anyway, I was expecting a cyberpunk game. I was expecting I don't know. I guess I don't know. I was hoping to be surprised by maybe a Matrix-y kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Matrix in the real world, as far as that can get, hacking life, as it were. And instead it was like, okay, hack this traffic light and cause a little bit of a fender bender, okay. Hack these bollards so the bollards pop up and the cars can't go forward. Ho-ho! Doesn't really stop the police because they'll just go around them.
Yeah, or there's a new vehicle in the next block anyway.
Right. Something will come and intercept you. The story was just this dour, joyless romp,
Yeah, and then the story yeah, go on.
Well, there's no charm to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the story lacked decision. Like, the story was, it was on rails. I mean, the very first thing you have to do, it says shoot guy. Well, what if I wanted to not shoot guy?
Oh, that was what did it for me.
You know what I mean? It's
I know that did it for a lot of people, but that was where I was like, I'm gonna shoot I tried shooting next to him. I tried shooting the ground. I tried putting my gun away. I tried all sorts of it.
You had to kill him. Like, that's the thing. It's like, it lacked the ability for you to make your own story. It was just you were a guy in a story that you're playing through, and it wasn't even worthwhile to play through. So I know it got it actually got pretty decent reviews and a lot of rewards, but I just couldn't see why. And I think
here's what they did right was their multiplayer. It was
maybe that's what it was.
Absolutely ingenious idea, and this was the only saving grace for Watch Dogs. And they have gone all out to make sure it's a key part of Watch Dogs 2, which I'm eager to go into more detail on. But what Watch Dogs 1, Watch Dogs is Watch_Dogs multiplayer was this really cool thing where you could hack into another person's game while they were playing, and it would give you an objective. For example, tail this person, and what it would do is you would appear in their game as a random NPC, and again you'd get the objective like follow this person for 5 minutes, stay within X amount of feet of them without them noticing you, because if they notice you, they have the ability to shoot you and you lose. Now, how do you start to think, how do I act like an NPC? How do I act like the average NPC? Because if you walk a little too straight, may look weird. You have to you almost start to think, well, what are some of the weird quirks of NPCs? Oh, randomly walking into traffic and then back on the sidewalk, or stopping, turning around and walking away. That was so cool. Both doing that and being on the lookout for that. I loved that. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, that's really cool, because I actually wasn't too familiar with that mechanic of it.
One of the funniest and most experiences I had with that was because when you hack into another person's game, it kind of will spawn you near where they are in the map. And it spawned me near this like industrial like yard. And there was a guy who just had a motorcycle, and he was just gently doing stunts over these mounds of gravel. I was like, I can't bring myself to mess with this guy's fun. And I just sat and watched him.
So if you're able to fulfill the objective, what does the guy whose game you hacked into get like a negative? Like what happens?
No, they have no idea that it happened.
So,
however, if you make yourself known, and like a good example of it happening in reverse, Watch Dogs, like all Ubisoft games at the time, had poker in it. So I was playing a poker game, and when I stopped, I was in a building, and I could hear just like chaos outside, and I just heard like cars, people screaming, cars honking, and just like explosions and stuff. I thought, there's someone trying to find me. There's someone trying to find me, and they don't know where I am. So they've given up like trying to be subtle. They're looking for me. And I just stayed in the building, and then all of a sudden a guy with an NPC model runs in, and of course I knew it was a real person, so I shot him. You know, it kills the guy, and he loses. I don't know, I think you probably get some manner of points if you are able to identify that. But it was just this like funny moment of this cat and mouse game of like unintentionally, he has no idea where I am, does he?
So does the person who hacked in, I mean, they're kind of a random NPC, but can they like drive a car? Can they pick up a gun?
Yep.
Well, interesting.
And of course, imagine, you know, you're playing your regular single player game and you just see an NPC walking around with an AK-47 running into traffic. You're like, what?
I think I know who this is.
That's not normal. So Watch Dogs 2 is definitely, they know that was what worked, so they're embracing that, and they've introduced a bounty system.
Yep.
So when you are attracting, like with all open world crime-y type games, when you attract police attention, somebody else playing the game can be part of the chase. So basically, like you obtain, you know, chaos levels, and you can be like, I get the vibe that like you show up in another person's game. Like I could be playing, and if some other guy in his single player game gets a police chase going on and it comes near where I am, there's a chance that I could see that police chase go by me.
Huh.
And it's almost like it's a MMO in that regard, where it's like you do see other people playing the game. Now, I don't understand fully how that works, because I think everyone plays as the same, you know, titular main character.
Mm-hmm.
So how, you know, did they show up kind of like as... I know that there's this like hacker collective called DeadSec that was part of the first game, and so you're part of this, you know, edgy... I have a problem with it. They seem like really try hard, and I just... like hipster for the sake of being hipster. You know, it's a San Francisco game, and they're like, wow, look at how edgy we are. I've got a mask that shows emotes on it. And it's like, you kind of seem like a middle-aged person trying to be like, hey, Snapchat, am I right? You know? Mm-hmm. And of course I can't really say much. I'm 26, so I'm edging out of the cool area.
You dang whippersnappers.
But I don't know. There were some parts of Watch Dogs that I did like. I liked the parkour-ism-ish.
Yeah, that was nice. It did function pretty well. I had a few random moments where I just would spontaneously jump off of a building, but that was, I think, probably more on me than anything else.
There was this cool kind of augmented reality thing going on with your phone where you could play games. Like there was I remember an alien shoot-'em-up game. Now here's the difference, right? In Watch Dogs, if you wanted to do that, you pulled out your phone and it'd be like, yes, we're going to have augmented reality aliens that you shoot in the middle. It's sort of like playing a VR game in public. In GTA 5, it's a drug trip. It's the same exact thing, but you're just high as fuck on methamphetamines, you know? So that's sort of a, sort of speaks to the difference between the two games there.
Mm-hmm. I did like...
Take that as you will.
I did like the aspect of, you know, trying to be able to randomly control different like cameras and things like that as you are in like a battle or a...
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
Certain missions to kind of like affect your surroundings. But I feel like they could have done it to another level. I feel like they could have even pushed the envelope a little bit more with it. I thought the combat wasn't... It was okay. It was enough to get the game going by, but it wasn't like they were trying to sell it as like the main part of the game, so... I don't know. I had really mixed really mixed feelings to the point where like I don't even think I put that much time into the game almost at all. I mean, it was just I just didn't have any drive.
I did like Chicago. I liked exploring particularly the western side of it. I liked the design of it. There just really wasn't much compulsion to... I forced myself to finish the storyline, and I really regret it. It's just was like, this is not getting any better. This is not getting better. And then you get to the end, and it's maybe the kind of person who likes your average, Monday night CBS series would like it. It was just a little too serious for me.
Well,
I think that games like that should be... It's ridiculous. And to be fair, Watch Dogs 2 does look like it's kind of embracing the ridiculousness a little bit. Just,
and maybe Watch Dogs 2 will, like, wipe the slate clean and actually pick up on all the little parts that Watch Dogs 1, maybe got wrong, so... I'm
not too hopeful.
Yeah, neither am I, but hey, maybe, you never know.
Yep. Smash and grab. No, I'm not naming out random commands.
Which fit within Watch Dogs 2.
Right. Smash and grab, I guess smash plus grab, continuing the trend of game symbol game. So watch_dogs followed by smash plus grab. Smash and grab, I put this next because I have similar feelings. Smash and grab is the next game from the Sleeping Dogs people, from United Front.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Sleeping Dogs, what happened was, as I've said before, Sleeping Dogs was amazing. Probably the best game ever. Probably. A title I don't give out very often, so... Sleeping Dogs was absolutely incredible for a lot of reasons. Had very cool, very good combat, sort of a kung fu version of the Assassin's Creed system. If anyone's played any Assassin's Creed, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's kind of I dodge, now I attack. Oh, I dodge, now I attack. I can fight 5 people at once, And it also was a really incredible world with Hong Kong. It also was a really great story, a very movie-like story. Really likable, really enjoyable, really charismatic characters. Then what United Front did was they said, hey, let's make a kind of side game called Triad Wars. And it was free. It was going to be free. They did have an open beta, and I did play it, as I seemingly apparently do with all open betas. And it was basically, we're going to take Hong Kong, and we're going to take the combat, but that's it. It took out all of the flavor, it took out all the personality. It was just, you were kind of up and coming through the ranks of running a gang, a triad sub-gang, and people likened it to a mobile game, or like a Facebook game, the ultimate insult. It very much was a little bit of base building, base management. You had an energy system, I think, yeah, that's right. It did have an energy system.
Like a freemium game.
Immediately turned me off. Yeah, freemium, that's the term. And needless to say, they stopped development on it. They were like, yeah, this is both not being what we want it to be and not getting the reception we want it to get. Probably more the latter than the former, but and so then just today, Smash and Grab was announced, and it looks like it's just literally the same thing. It's Triad Wars again. It's a kind of brawler, open world-ish, kind of cooperative, kind of competitive thing where you are 2 teams of gangs that are trying to loot a place, and I guess the team that gets a certain amount of loot by the end of the round wins, so you're both trying to loot the place and fight the other guys who are doing the same thing.
So it just so happened that 2 gangs decided to hit the same building at the same time.
Right. And it seems like maybe it's wrapped up in a game show aesthetic. I couldn't quite get the vibe. I was kind of turned off really quickly. And it's just like, no, make Sleeping Dogs 2. Don't
I would love Sleeping Dogs 2. And it was a long time ago, but I think we talked about, I had this radical idea for Sleeping Dogs 2, which would be like in Sleeping Dogs 1, I don't really think it's a choice, but one of the main storylines is that they constantly dance around the question of, like, are you are you true to being a cop, or are you true to being part of the triad that you're like, you're going undercover within? Like, which way is he turning? Is he like, which way is he actually, like, where is his heart lie?
And in the end, it's left ambiguous.
But like, yeah, it leaves it completely up to the player on deciding on what exactly he would do. And I think it would be perfect, or even better, if like they made 2 Sleeping Dogs 2. One if he stayed as a cop, and one if he stayed as the leader of the one gang. Like, you can have completely different development opportunities, 2 completely different types of plots. Oh my god, would I love that! I mean, and I say that in 2 separate games as opposed to like Sleeping Dogs 2. The very first thing you do is which one do you want, and then it just decides.
Right.
I would like it just because if they did the level of complexity and depth to like all fabrications of the story as they did in the first one, but to each of those 2 story plots, oh my god, I would buy both games. They would make double the money off of me.
Yeah,
like
Sleeping Dogs comes from the mafia school of thought of like, hey, we're just gonna tell this really tightly crafted, very linear, but very exceptional story, and you have no complaints of being on rails for the whole thing. But and you're not on rails in the sense of like the mission structure is open and fun enough. The world between the missions is very open and very fun. So I never quite felt like I was being forced into Sleeping Dogs. Yes, there are moments where it is like, because the character himself is wrestling with, am I more loyal to the gang that I'm coming to really like these people, or am I more loyal to the police force that is coming to increasingly seem a little bit skeevy?
Yep.
So they did a pretty good job, I think, of leaving it, like you said, to the player's interpretation.
Oh, but it's a shame. I really would like Sleeping Dogs 2. That would be I think it's a really needed game at this point.
Yeah, so Smash plus Grab, maybe somebody's jam, not mine.
Yeah, breaking back into the Gamescom mode.
Here's some more Ubisoft stuff.
Another, I'd say, this is more of an announcement, I believe, is that there was a big expansion, and I guess it's a deluxe edition announced for The Crew, which is an actual, I'd say it's almost like an open world MMO driving game, really?
Yep. I guess that's the best way to word it. Yeah. The crew is this exceptionally Ubisoft game. it's like Ubisoft doing Ubisoft, they kind of go do the icons, go find the things that unlock the areas, kind of, and I played the beta for it back when it first was coming out. I liked it. Not enough to convince me to buy it. I was very glad that there was a beta because it was a game that had my attention. It's all of the United States as a drivable open world MMO racer, as you said. You were kind of driving around. I think it did sort of a localized multiplayer in that, like, say you drove into New England, then maybe 20 other people who were within a good couple 100 miles of you would appear on the map, and you could use them to sort of kind of co-op races against AI. It's a weird system. There were a lot of problems with The Crew. There were a lot of things that people did not like. The driving physics, which is, I think, an inherent issue with a game like that.
Would be a big part of it, you would think.
I didn't play it enough to be able to, because I have a problem with racing games. A lot of racing games recently I pick up, and I don't like the driving physics because, like you, I was bred on mid-2000s racing games, which are a lot looser. They're a lot, like Need for Speed and Midnight Club are a lot lighter and freer. Modern-day racing games, they have decided to finally introduce physics.
Who would have thought?
And it's like, oh, gee, my car has some weight when I turn. This doesn't feel right. Where's my two-wheel drift? This is crazy. This is bullshit.
Think about the last time we actually ever saw a Gran Turismo game.
Yeah, Gran Turismo even then was like, that was as realistic as it got for me, and that was pretty realistic, to be fair. But I digress. The Crew, again, a lot of inherent issues that people had, but I've constantly had that as my, if there's ever an Ultimate Edition that comes out, the expansions look kind of fun. The current one is a cops versus crooks kind of thing. You know, no big surprise. They had the Wild Run, which looked kind of cool a few months or maybe years back. So I might get the Ultimate Edition if it's on a good enough sale. This is sort of like a, $5 game for me. But like Steam Steam sale.
The one thing I do like, and you brought up a good point of, I think it's this game. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Was that in this edition where they started to announce the whole I'd say like the cops versus the drag racer kind of setup.
Yeah.
It seems like there's going to be modes as they add on to it where it's going to be like one person plays the street racer, a few people play the cops, and then like that's the whole goal is that as a team you try to take down the street racer, but obviously he has the benefit of having a much better car, which I think is how they would balance it out. But,
and unlimited NOS.
Yeah, that's what it was. That was another big one, was that unlimited NOS. But
that's crazy.
But like that goes back to a very, very old game, which I think was like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which was still for like the PS1, I think.
Yeah.
Really old games where they had that mode where they had like the computer-controlled AI, and then it would be like you and a buddy played a cop that you had to try to take down this guy, whether you try to like roadblock him or what. But I think that could be a cool game mode to do, but like you said, it wouldn't be enough to make me want to buy a full price game just for the fact that I could play a cop or a street racer.
I'll tell you what my favorite moment in The Crew was. I had this fantasy that I have always wanted to live out. I don't have the balls to do it in real life, so I was able to do this in The Crew. I had a nice meaty muscle car, black. I probably had some tacky ass flame decals on the side, knowing me. The exposed engine, all that. I drove to the outskirts of Reno, Nevada, just where the desert just starts going. And I turned off any in-game music, and I pulled up Queens of the Stone Age's Songs for the Deaf, and the first track on that album is just crying for you to just open up the throttle as soon as that starts. And so I, because it's got this kind of intro, the illusion, the album itself, the first song starts off with the sound of getting into a car, starting it up and turning on the radio, and then it says a da 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 da, yow, boom 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 boom, and I did it. I did that. I got to do that. The sun was going down. I just planned out every inch of this, and I wish I took a video of it because I would relive that like vacation photos in real life. I remember that day. That was so great. And so once I did that, I kind of felt fulfilled with The Crew. It was like the actual driving around northern New Hampshire was kind of interesting. It was perpetually like a dark autumn night. It never wasn't that. I thought couldn't tell if that was am I just not waiting around for the day-night cycle, or is it just always like that? Is it like that here all the time? Is it just always an autumn night in northern New Hampshire? Do I not notice these things? But I mean, I do sleep a lot during the day, so who knows? It could be. It's weird. The free roam of the game is what appeals to me the most, but I have so many other free roam games. I mean, Euro Truck Simulator. American Truck Simulator. The fact that they, are kind of slowly expanding across the states. Maybe I own American Truck Simulator, so just every expansion is a little piece of cake every now and then. So who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, that big announcement. So if you're in The Crew, great. If you're just looking for maybe an online racing experience, it could be something worth checking out. But hey, go look it up.
I don't not recommend it. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. I think if you're interested in it, I encourage checking it out because I did like it. I just have I have other things to do. So,
on a completely different spectrum.
Hey, here's something entirely unrelated.
Yooka-laylee. Yep, you heard that right. Spelled in a very interesting manner. Yooka-laylee. It is a...
Wait, hang on a second. Oh my
God.
That's my ukulele. And I actually have it at my desk. Moving right on.
But I would say it's the not Crash Bandicoot. Oh my God, Banjo-Kazooie. Of the current generation. It looks like a kind of a cartoony platformer where one one half of the yooka-laylee, maybe yuka is the big thing, and laylee is the small thing. The small thing rides the big thing's back and helps them do things in a platforming manner. It's probably a good take on it, right?
It's the PC version of that.
Yeah.
Their genre there.
The Banjo-Kazooie, a very old game for the N64 out of all things. But yeah, it was...
Jesus, been that long.
I mean, Banjo-Kazooie was... Banjo was a bear, Kazooie was a big, giant bird that lived in his backpack, and it was just like, you know, if you double jumped, the bird would open up its wings, and then there's different, like, little, like, arcadey, I'd say, platformy kind of mechanics like that. So... Yeah. This looks very similar. I mean, it looks like there's going to be gimmicks in it. Yes, I mean, I'd say from a visual standpoint, it looks like it hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's clean, it's well animated, it's, I'd say very bright and cartoony, but in a good way, not in like, I don't know what's the best way of putting it, but the visual style fits what it's going for. Is probably
it looks like a good modern iteration. The cool thing being that it is coming out for PC, you know,
definitely,
and not, you know, Nintendo 2016, you know, Wii U. That's what it's called.
Yeah, the Wii.
Trying to remember. I was like, there was something after the Wii. What was it called? It couldn't have been Wii. Oh.
The Wii Me.
Wii Me?
The Wii
was
Wii?
it the Wii Me? Wii Wii. Yes, that was it. It was the Wii Wii. Makes about as much sense as calling something a Wii Nintendo. In other pretty appealing looking game news, Lost Ember.
Yeah,
Lost Ember.
Lost Ember. It's who? It was from who's the developer again?
I will look that up.
I just completely forgot. I just completely blanked on it because it's the
Moon Eye Studios.
But didn't they make? I thought they were famous for like another game or something. Like
all I know is that they made mobile games.
That's what it was. Here. Yeah, they were a famous developer for various different types of mobile games, and they decided to crash into the full-scale markup with Lost Ember. It is
gorgeous looking.
Yeah, it's a game where you play a wolf, but you're not just an ordinary wolf. You're a wolf that can, I believe, they said that it was more of like a mind control mechanic, but the video seemed more like it was a morph mechanic.
It was like you're a spirit that is able to say, I'm a wolf, but I need to fly. Hey, look at that bird. Now I'm going to be a bird.
Yeah, but it's not like you took over the bird's body. It looked like you just said, hey, look, I want to be that parrot, and now you're a parrot. You know, that is like...
Kind of, it gives me Metroid vibes.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of saying it, but it didn't really... It was like a 2 or 3 minute, if anything, trailer, so it didn't show much at all.
Oh, but it looked like freaking Fantasia. It was so nice.
It looked like one of those games where you just constantly just stop and look around going, God, this is pretty. Like, this is a will buy for me, for sure. Yeah, like, there was like one of the scenes where, like, I think the wolf you play, like, jumped either down off of a tree or through a tree or something, and there's just, like tens of dozens of birds that just, like, I guess, you know, it's like they were all on the ground and then you jumped and then they all started to fly away, and it's just this cascading rainbow of these well animated birds all through your screen, and you're just sitting there going, oh my God, this should just be in a still painting somewhere. But
we're sort of like we were talking about with the Bastion short. It's like we're at the point where there used to be such a hilarious divide between in-game CGI cinematics versus in-game, rather. And, you know, you would be playing a game and you'd have this, like, great CGI, like, especially Blizzard stuff, this exceptional. And then you'd go to the in-game, like, really robotic and stiff, and we don't know what lighting is.
Yep.
And it's like, now we're at the point where games look like
they're just that
those
pretty
CGI cutscenes while you're playing them.
But yeah,
so
it looks like it's going to be an exploration platform kind of game, just as highly dependent on visuals. But who knows? Could be a lot more. Lost Ember, go check it out.
We'll definitely link the video. Worth a watch. If you watch anything, this is one of the things you should definitely watch because it's just it's short and it's pretty. Well, seeing as we're coming up on about 2 hours,
oh God,
we are probably going to keep the rest of our Gamescom coverage for next week. Cliffhangers.
Who would have thought?
But mostly because the games that we have left are fantasy and sci-fi games, pretty specifically, that we both are really butts excited for. And
yeah, I mean, we want to put the time into actually getting into them.
Right, and among them, just to name them off real quick, we've got For Honor coming. We've got Tyranny from Obsidian, from the Pillars of Eternity devs. Holy shit, am I excited for that. We've got Divinity Original Sin 2. Also really excited for that, even though I didn't really get on with the first Divinity. Why? Find out next week on Addicted to Loot. And in the sci-fi field, we've got Prey 2, which is from Arcane, so that's the Dishonored people. Nice, looks pretty rad. The Surge, Brian, you're really stoked for that. Kind of like a sci-fi Dark Souls?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I wasn't really familiar with the developer for this one, but it kind of came out of left field. But yeah, it really is someone's take on this like sci-fi industrial kind of sort of, I would not even cyberpunk, but yeah, definitely sci-fi meets Dark Souls meets a very, I'd say, complex crafting and gathering system.
Yeah, it's caught my attention
really,
too.
really good.
Elite Dangerous has some updates that are coming, and this one,
of course, the big one.
This one's highlighted in green on our on our list here. Star Citizens 3.0 version 3.0 announcement.
Huge, major announcement. We could probably make a whole episode just on that.
This is starting to look like a game, ladies and gentlemen. This is starting to look really good. And it already is fun. Like, we've already had fun experiences with it. But, wow, what they have got coming for 3.0 is starting to... It's like they could ship that, you know, honestly.
Yeah, it's something you need to tune in for. It is insane.
So we will post some links to the Gamescom coverage of this stuff, I think. But if you're looking for some real in-depth talk about it, we're going to be going there because these are some pretty huge things that we specifically are looking forward to.
Yeah, and if there's anything in Gamescom or any of the recent announcement that we didn't get to or didn't address, hey, write us in.
Yes.
Send us an email, send us a tweet or anything. Leave us a comment on our website.
Please,
let us know.
Means.
We will definitely do the time, look into it, and let you know what we think.
Yeah, Gamescom and even in general. What are some of the games that you guys are looking forward to in the upcoming release season? Because maybe there's something we haven't heard of. I was reminded, I did ask out on a couple different places today, and I was reminded by Regis, Alex's brother, that Horizon Zero Dawn is a thing.
Yes.
I keep forgetting that.
I am so excited for that game, but I don't think it's PC. I think it's a PS4 exclusive.
Well, maybe that's not going to be a problem anymore.
Well, maybe not anymore, but yes, that is such an amazing game. I love that game. Yeah. What it looks like so far is such an amazing game.
My comment on that is I'm really glad that Egret was able to find work after Game of Thrones. I'm going to just leave that one out there. Anyway, so we're just going to jump really quick. Our playlist is going to be kind of a abridged version this week, but we've both been playing something that we'd really like to share with you guys, and that's Paragon.
Yeah, it's funny. We just talked about this whole big MOBA thing, and of course, oh my god, I'm blanking on the developer.
Epic.
Epic, yes, Epic. Epic relieves their take on a MOBA, and it's like a third-person MOBA that takes both elements from, I would say, League as well as Dota, and puts them into this. It's just such a fun game. We've
been having a really great time with this.
Yeah, it's like it's a 3D world, so you're actually third person in it. So it's not like the typical top-down MOBA, but it's WASD controls. Your ability keys are QE, and your like mouse clicks. Oh my god, this game!
It's so great. It's really great.
It is fun, but it's not like your typical MOBA where like it's like there's a lot of emphasis on farm. It's almost like if you just sit there like killing creeps, you're not going to actually get much from the game. It's almost like it's far more oriented on how well can I take this character and either kill or inhibit the other team. I mean, it's
min-maxing the game.
it's far more. I would say it's far more battle player versus player oriented versus okay, I'm just going to sit here and like I'm going to grind creeps for 3 or 4 minutes, get all my money, and buy an item. is actually, but then it's also part deck building. Which
Ooh,
is
yes.
Even cool. Instead of items, you have these decks that have cards, and each card has a value, and then each card has an upgrade to the card that also requires you to basically put the in-game currency into it.
Right. The so-called farming does exist in that regard, as in the creeps that you kill do get you these kind of essentially Hearthstone mana points, right? To put towards a card basically, and say, I have 3 points, I can now get this staff. And cards beyond the initial, health and mana ones can be upgraded as well, and sort of upgraded in a specific modular way. So you can get a card that says, okay, this is a staff that increases my health and my damage output, but I can also upgrade it to increase my mana pool by an incremental amount. Or I could choose to not do that, but maybe increase my attack speed, which is really important in this game.
Yeah, and that's actually what the deck building comes in, because it could be, you could make one deck or one card, like you just said, like you can have deck A where you have a card that's boosting your mana and your attack, but in deck A, your upgrades are, just nothing but attack. So you have 3 attack upgrades, but in deck B, the same exact card has the same exact base stats, but this time I'm doing it all in 8, like magical points, so that I have more mana to cast more spells. So it's like you could completely customize all the cards for any given situation. Then you can make various different types of decks.
What's interesting though is that decision is locked in pre-game. So
like you can't do it on the fly.
Right. So you basically are going to say, this is like most MOBAs, and I did it's funny, I complained about this last week, but I don't have as much of a beef with it in this one. MOBAs are team games. They're games that really want you to go in with 5 people that you know. And so you can kind of go in and say, all right, guys, I'll be the team healer, essentially, or I'll be the
support character.
I'll be your lightning rod of hate. And you go in kind of saying, well, all right, I've got my support deck. You can, if you want to make a jack of all trades, master of none deck, emphasis on the master of none, though. You really are going to be sacrificing. Like, the character I was playing, that I got on with the most was Muriel, which was sort of basically essentially all based on buffs. She was team buffs. She had a couple of debuff skills for enemies that were cool because they were AoE skills. But I really was synergizing mostly with you because we were playing with AI teams otherwise. And,
that was the other thing.
So I was saying, all right, Brian, I'm going to follow you. Like, one of her abilities, her sort of ultimate ability, her Q in Overwatch, if you will, is that she flies to any teammate on the map instantaneously. And of course, needless to say, this has a crazy long cooldown, but she flies to any teammate, gives them a crazy shield, doesn't last long, but the best thing about it is that you can cover the entire map without having to have line of sight to the character. That is huge.
It's the ultimate support oh shit button.
Oh, it's amazing. I wish that every game had that. It's kind of like how in Overwatch Mercy has her shift is basically, if she can see you, she's going to warp to you. And that includes flying characters, etc. So I liked that a lot. I'm finding I'm playing more support characters than I ever did in games whenever I'm co-oping with you, Brian. I find that's really interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a type of game where I wouldn't say there's, each character they say has a slotted role, but almost any character can turn into, I would say, a tank, the carry, if you will, in standard MOBA terms. Because it's like, I've played a caster that, depending on the game, I would have 15 kills or something, because I'm actually the best damage dealer on the team, and I'm just owning the entire rest of the AI team, I should say. So I'm not owning other players. But
right.
And then another game we played, I was playing the same guy with almost, I would say, a very similar build, and I was just, it was a big, long, grinding struggle to get much of anything, and the damage, I was an Uber class cannon, and then like the damage I was getting on that playthrough was, I was doing all this burst damage and just not doing anything. Like, at one time, like, my ultimate on the first game would kill anyone I got caught, like, that got caught in it. The second game, and like, I got to the point where like I would get 3 or 4 people in it, and almost all of them would get out alive.
Yeah.
They might be lower health, but they're still alive to the point where I'm running the other way because I'm going to die.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a cool game. It's not like there's not a mold, so it's any character can do almost anything at any time. So it's.
I can't stress enough that this is the first MOBA that I've liked. This is of a lot that I've tried, of at least 5 MOBAs. And we're talking the powerhouses: Dota, League, Heroes of Newerth, Blizzard's one that I always space on the name of because it's so similar to 3 other things that Blizzard has. But this is the first one. I think a big part of it is that WASD movement. I think that really...
It really helps.
For me, my left hand is all I have to worry about is moving and shooting off the abilities. The right hand, that's my aiming. That's my, I'm used to that in other games. I don't play RTSs a lot. Maybe if I played RTSs, I'd get on more with top-down MOBAs.
But yeah, no, I definitely like it. It's a good take on a MOBA. It's a very different take on a MOBA. It's definitely like MOBA groundbreaking, if you will. But I think it's still in open beta. I would say definitely go check it out.
Yes, please.
I'd say if you're a MOBA fan, go check it out because of how different it is. And if you're not a MOBA fan, hey, go check it out because it's not a standard MOBA. You might actually find one you like.
Right, we're kind of representing the two opinions right here in both of us. You're coming from an established MOBA fan and you're having a good time. I'm coming from an averse to MOBAs, MOBA-phobia. oh, that's gold.
Patent pending.
That's rich. And on that note, we're going to call it this week because this has been quite the bumper episode and we're just getting started.
I know. So for this episode, oh my god. So that has been Addicted to Loot. Please reach out to us on all of our various social networks, starting out with the Addicted to Loot website, which is addictedtoloot.weebly.com. That will also steer you to all of our other stuff. That is, our email, which is addictedtoloot@gmail.com, our various Twitter accounts, whether it's our 2 personal accounts or the Master Addicted to Loot account.
And
our
that
Facebook
has a
page.
number 2 on the Twitter.
Yep, definitely at addicted to the number 2 loot. Our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, as well as our Twitch channel. And you can always subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and even on SoundCloud. So there's more than enough ways to get all of your Addicted to Loot fun.
And that's going to do it for us. We'll see you guys next week with our continuation of Gamescom-athon.
Catch you on the flip side.